Hi, it's Sherry from A Quilting Life, and today I'm here to talk about Jelly Roll Quilts. I recently published a video with charm pack projects, and that was the first in a series that I'm going to do with projects and quilts from pre-cuts. So today I'm doing the Jelly Roll video, and as I gathered everything together, I realized that I actually have enough to share with you on this topic that we're going to break it into 2 videos. So this is Jelly Roll Quilts and Projects Part 1. I've got a stack of quilts here that I'm going to share. Some of them are available as individual patterns. One of them is even available as a free tutorial. And then a couple of them are in a couple of books that I'm going to share with you today. So we're just going to go through the stack. I'm going to talk about why I like the quilt and how it works with a jelly roll, and just a few tips and tricks on some of them that I have that information for. So let's get started. Okay, first I'm going to share 2 Jelly Roll quilts from my book with Corey Yoder, Sunday Best Quilts. Now there are actually 4 Jelly Roll quilts in this book. Corey and I didn't talk about that or plan it, but it just happened that we both designed 2 Jelly Roll quilts for the book. So I have the 2 that I designed to share with you, and I'll pop pictures up into the video of Corey's 2 Jelly Roll quilts. So 4 Jelly Roll quilts in Sunday Best Quilts. And the first one is Driftwood Drive, and this is actually a gorgeous charm pack plus jelly roll quilt that I made with Sweetwater collection, and I actually mixed in some of Corey's pepper and flax fabrics in here from a year or so ago. So this is just a really fun quilt, a simple method of putting it together with the because all the cutting is done for you. Charm pack squares and jelly roll strips. So this is a great jelly roll quilt. The next one included in Sunday Best Quilts is my Christmas quilt. Corey and I both designed Christmas quilts for the book, and mine is super scrappy. I used fig tree fabrics along with some of my own fabrics and did this beautiful jelly roll quilt. This one is set on point, so if you haven't put an on-point quilt together yet, it does take a little bit more care. 2 things. I have a blog post that talks about how to put an on-point quilt together, which I'll link in the description below. And then also you can always take any on-point quilt and set it together in a straight setting. You might need to make a few more blocks to get the size that you are looking for, but you can always do that if you aren't ready to tackle the on-point quilt yet. Okay, and as I mentioned, there are 2 more quilts from the Sunday Best Quilt book that are jelly roll quilts, so we'll pop up some pictures of those. They're gorgeous quilts that Corey designed. Another quilt that I'm going to share is my quilt from the Moda All-Stars on a roll book. Now this is a great book with 14 different quilts that use jelly roll strips. And this book has projects of all different sizes included. So you can find smaller projects and quilts. I happened to do a quilt for this and used our Clover Hollow collection from a couple of years ago for this. This is a pretty good size quilt, and there's kind of a neat construction method. With the jelly rolls, you're able to do strip piecing and then just a little twist on it to get this quilt together, but this is a really nice size quilt as well. In fact, I should tell you the size of it. It finishes at 64.5 by 78.5. So just a really nice size jelly roll quilt in this Moda All-Stars on a roll book, and I'll link this as well. So the next quilt, and I love this one is also set on point. This is one of my most popular patterns for a few years ago, and I made it using jelly rolls from the Fig Tree and Company Farmhouse collection. And this is a really big quilt. It always kind of amazes me how big of a quilt you can get using jelly rolls. This one it's set on the diagonal, as I mentioned, but you could do a straight setting if you wanted. And just absolutely love this quilt. I keep meaning to remake it using some of our own fabrics. and because I think it would work in just about almost any fabric collection. The next one is my Pathways quilt, and this is a Jelly Roll quilt, and you're going to use charm squares or layer cake squares to make up the rest. But another just fun, fast, and easy Jelly Roll quilt, because when you start with 2.5 inch strips, a lot of the work is done for you. The cutting goes very quickly because you've got that already completed. And this also makes a really nice size quilt. This is another Jelly Roll plus Charm Pack quilt. This is Beach Days, and if you watch the Charm Pack video, you actually saw it on there. I shared it on there, but I need to share it here too because it's a Jelly Roll quilt. Again, it's set on point, but I have made this with a straight setting, and it's really fun with a straight setting too. So again, I feel like the diagonal set quilts, the first couple of times you make one, it might be a little bit more time consuming, but once you get the hang of it, it gets easier and easier to do a diagonal set quilt. And then, as I mentioned, you can always set them together in a straight setting. This is another one of my Jelly Roll quilts, and this one's pretty recent. It's with our Summer Sweet fabric collection, and again, checkerboard blocks made with Jelly Roll strips that go together super quickly because of the pre-cutting that's already been done for you. This one's called Patchwork Garden 2. Now, I do have a Patchwork Garden that came before this that works with honey bun strips, and I'll be sharing that when I do the honey bun quilt video. But so make sure if you're looking for it, I'll put a direct link to this one, but this is Patchwork Garden 2, and the original pattern works with the 1.5 inch strips. And finally, the last quilt I have to share today, this one is a Scrappy Trip Around the World quilt. And this is actually a free tutorial by Bonnie Hunter that I'll link to. I've made 2 of these quilts. This one was just Scrappy from, wow, several years ago. Right away I did a Christmas version of this quilt, which I absolutely love. And I've also taught this as a class and seen it in so many different varieties of fabric. You can take your favorite fabric collection, you can get a few jelly rolls by one designer that go together and make it even more scrappy, or you can even just raid your scrap bin and cut 2.5 inch strips. So this Scrappy Trip Around the World is great. I even have a PDF that will let you know how many of the blocks that you need to make using Bonnie's tutorial for different size quilts. So I'll link that in the description below too, because that's pretty helpful if you're thinking that you just might want to make a baby quilt, or you might want to make a king size quilt. I keep thinking I'm going to make a king size quilt for this one. One more thing I want to show about this is the way I laid it out. My light strips kind of make a pattern going throughout, kind of a chain pattern. And the secret to doing that is to always have your light strip in the middle of your strip set. And when you look at Bonnie's tutorial, you'll see how she has you make that. But you'll always want your light fabric to start out in the middle, and then when you lay out your blocks, you can make sure that you get that chain pattern going. So this is another really great quilt. Actually, I think I'm going to show you my Christmas version of this one right now too. I'm going to go grab that right now. Okay, yeah, I ran and grabbed the Christmas version because it's just too cute not to share. Let's set this one away. And for this one, I just used tons of Christmas scraps by all different people. I also did the same thing with the white or the light colored strips so that I made kind of a chain going through. But I did something else super fun with this one that I wanted to show you. I used a flannel for the backing. So we get this quilt out at Christmas time, and so it's nice and cozy for whoever is, I usually throw this one on the couch at Christmas time. But so it's nice and cozy with the flannel on the back. And just another great option with your Jelly Roll strips. And as I mentioned, this is a free tutorial, and then I have the PDF to go along with it. Okay, so that's part one of the Jelly Roll Quilts video. I had so many Jelly Roll Quilts, as I mentioned earlier, that we did break it up into 2 videos, so watch for part 2. It will have more quilts. It will have more books that have multiple Jelly Roll patterns, because that's a really cost-effective way of getting a lot of patterns with one. You know, if for a book, really, if you're going to make at least 3 of the quilts in the book, then you're saving money over buying individual patterns. So I'll share with you some of my favorite Jelly Roll books, and then I'll have more quilts, and then I've also got some smaller projects to share: wall hanging, table runner, and even some projects that you can make with your Jelly Roll scraps. So I hope that you'll subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and thanks so much for stopping by.